LoreWarrior vehicles. VNL-K65N von Luckner Heavy Tank. Overview. After the reunification war, Star League military commanders asked several contractors to design a heavy tank system. Hartford Co. Industries answered their call with the VNL-K65N von Luckner, named after the famous Terran raider, Count Felix von Luckner, of the early 20th century. The tank was designed as a battlemech without legs. It weighs in at 75 tons, which is more than the weight of many mechs. It is one of the few vehicles that is still driven by a fusion reactor, as most reactors have been stripped from vehicles for use in mechs. Only a few von Luckners still remain in service. Like the much larger Demolisher tank, they are a deadly foe to light battlemechs. Capabilities. The VNL-K65M provides ample firepower and supports a great deal of armour to protect its delicate systems. Its fusion power plant gives it very long range, making it deadly for most mechs. It carries an Armstrong Autocannon 20, considered one of the most accurate weapons in its class. Its indirect fire weapons and missile systems are also impressive. 2 Holley SRM-6 racks on the turret provide right and left fire capability when the turret is facing forward. Holley armaments are also including an LRM-10 rack mounted high on the tank's rear. The system acts as a turret mount, as it can be rotated to a certain extent. Finally, a Danel SRM-4 rack is mounted on the front of the turret, just to the right of the autocannon. For close infantry weapons, the von Luckner supports a Ramsey machine gun mounted in the front turret. Although the Ramsey system has a tendency to jam, a single Firestorm flamer system on the front of the tank can fill the gap well enough. With all its armour and weapons, the von Luckner might seem unstoppable. However, the tank's weakness is the enormous amount of ammunition it must carry to support its missile systems. Most reloads are in the lower portion of the tank, and not in the turret system itself. A fire, or an internal critical hit, can cause a devastating series of explosions in the von Luckner. The tank also has problems with its ammunition reloading system, which jams from time to time. The 4-person crew of the von Luckner has its hands full during combat. One man is the main driver, another crew member is in charge of the ammunition reloading systems and the engine, another acts as the turret and fire control officer who coordinates the turret with the OP targeting and tracking system. The last member is the turret gunnery officer, who works closely with the turret fire control officer. Battle history. Only a few von Luckners are still in service. Many were scrapped for mech spare parts. House Lau, for example, has stripped all of its von Luckners for parts. The other houses have a few VNLs serving with frontline troops. Many of these tanks prove their worth on such far-flung worlds as Wing, Proserpina, Bryant, Tannel, Danaeus, and Tybalt. In 2859, House Davion launched an attack on the Kurita Hell world of Safel. Kurita had no mech units on the planet, and so they had to rely on their tanks and infantry. The 3600th Heavy Armoured Company, consisting of a few von Luckners, led the counterattack. The Davion invasion force received reports of tanks moving along their western front through the forests. Thinking that the tanks were a minor threat, they sent only one light company to hold them back. The light lancers then found themselves trapped by fire from the von Luckners and heavy tanks destroying the company to the last. Several von Luckners were stationed on the Commonwealth world of Orbison to cover House Steiner's retreat before the forces of the Draconis Combine during 2989. Although most historians viewed the loss of the von Luckners as senseless waste, it did buy a great deal of time for Steiner forces to regroup. By all accounts, the heavy tanks inflicted much damage on the Kurita forces. In 3017, Red Jack Ryan led a deep raid for water on Icar in the Lyran Commonwealth. The raid turned into a disaster for Ryan's forces when several von Luckners emerged and shelled the mech forces. Many of Ryan's mechs were crippled, and he was eventually forced to retreat, with nothing gained. Variants. House Davion is known to have several experimental versions of the von Luckner in its armies. One of these is the VNL-K100, which has fewer missile delivery systems but adds an Armstrong Autocannon 20 with an updated targeting and tracking system. Notable vehicles and pilots. Lieutenant Cromwell Jenkins. Cromwell inherited the family von Luckner tank, which had one foot in the grave. It took 3 years and a great deal of his family's land and money to put the von Luckner back in perfect working order. Since then, he served with the Draconis Combine in many battles along the Kurita-Steiner border. He's also participated in several raids on the planet Suk, but to date, Hausgerita has not maintained a firm foothold on the world. Lieutenant Stefine Dankins. Stefine is the driver of a von Luckner tank for House Marek. Her von Luckner is not functioning well, and often overheats since it's lost 2 heatsinks in battle for the Lao control planet of Sien. Though she has recently been assigned to command the 2007th Heavy Tank Group, Marek quartermasters repeatedly deny her requests for spare parts.